Okay, so if you're an unmarried parent living with your child's other parent, you've probably asked yourself this question. Who actually gets to claim the kids on our taxes? It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer can get super confusing, and getting it wrong can lead to some major trouble with the IRS. So today, we're going to lay out a clear, simple roadmap to get it right.
All right, here's what we're going to break down. We'll start with something called the double head of household trap. This is a huge red flag for the IRS. Then we're going to clarify what the rules are for a single home and figure out who really gets to claim the kids. After that, we'll show you how to correct any past mistakes. And finally, we'll build you an audit-proof blueprint for the future.
First up, let's talk about the double head of household trap. This is, hands down, the most common and, yeah, costly mistake unmarried parents make when they're living under the same roof. And trust me, getting this wrong can trigger an audit and cost you thousands.
So here's the big question. Can you both file as head of household? This is where so many people get tripped up. You might even hear from someone that it's a clever way to get a bigger refund, but that advice isn't just wrong, it's a massive risk.
The IRS's answer? It's pretty much always a hard no. And the logic is just simple math. See, to qualify for head of household, you have to prove that you paid more than 50% of the household bills. It is literally mathematically impossible for two people living in the same house to each pay more than half. One is over 50, the other has to be under.
So when two tax returns pop up from the exact same address, and both of them are claiming head of household status, well, you can imagine what happens. It sends up this huge red flag in the IRS system. They immediately suspect either a mistake or, worse, fraud, which puts your returns right at the top of the pile for an audit.
Okay, so we know only one person can be head of household. So how do you figure out who that person is? Well, it all starts with understanding how the IRS defines a single home. And luckily, their rules on this are pretty straightforward.
Look, the IRS keeps it super simple. If you share a kitchen or a living room, you are one household. End of story. Now, some shady tax preparers might suggest trying to get around this by adding Apt A and Apt B to your address. Don't fall for it. The IRS sees that for what it is, tax fraud.
This number is everything. To legally, and I mean legally, claim head of household, you have to be able to prove with actual receipts and bank statements that you personally paid over half the costs of keeping up that home for the entire year. And that means everything: rent, utilities, food, repairs, the whole shebang.
Now don't worry about reading every single box on this flowchart. Let's just walk through the basic logic the IRS uses. The key questions are really simple. Are you unmarried? Yep. Did you pay more than half the household costs? And does the child's other parent live with you? Answering these questions always leads to the same conclusion. One of you might be eligible for head of household, but the other one must file as single.
All right, let's get to the big one. The question we all came here for. If only one of you can be head of household, who actually gets to claim the children and all those valuable tax credits that come with them?
You've basically got two paths you can go down here. The best way, for sure, is to decide together. You can figure out which parent claiming the child brings the most financial benefit to your family as a whole. But if you can't agree, the IRS doesn't guess. They have a strict tiebreaker rule. The child has to be claimed by the parent who earned more money. That's the one with the higher adjusted gross income, or AGI, on their tax form.
Okay, let's put this into a real-world example, right? This is the most common, totally legal way to do it. Let's say parent A earns more and pays the rent, which covers over half the bills. They get to file as head of household and claim the child. Now, parent B earns less but helps out with groceries. In this situation, parent B cannot claim any dependents and absolutely must file as single.
Okay, so what if you're listening to this and a little alarm bell is going off in your head? You might be thinking, uh-oh, I think we did this wrong, especially if you got some bad advice. First off, don't panic. There's a clear three-step process to amend your returns, protect yourself, and get right with the IRS.
Here's your three-step cleanup plan. It's super important to follow these in order. First, report the preparer. This is a crucial step because it shows the IRS you were misled and that you acted in good faith. Second, you need to file an amended tax return to correct your filing status. And finally, if you get hit with penalties, you can request relief. You can argue that you had reasonable cause for the mistake because you were simply trusting a professional who gave you bad advice. All right, let's switch gears from fixing the past to protecting your future. We're going to build an audit-proof blueprint right now so you can have the confidence and the documentation you need to make sure you never have to worry about an audit on this issue again. Seriously, before you even think about hiring someone to do your taxes, run them through this checklist. A legitimate professional preparer is actually required to ask you for this proof and documentation. If they don't ask for records, if they refuse to sign your return, or if they tell you not to worry about the other parent living there, you need to walk out the door.
This is so simple, but it's your absolute best defense. Get a folder, a real one or one on your computer, for every single tax year. In that folder, you need proof of residency, like your lease. You need proof of support, like bank statements showing you paid the bills. And if you and your partner agreed on who claims the kids, a simple signed note explaining that decision can be a lifesaver. Having this proof ready to go is everything.
You know, when it's all said and done, it really boils down to this one simple question you can ask any tax preparer. How should we file since my child's other parent lives here? If their answer is just a casual, don't worry about it, instead of a careful explanation of the rules we've just covered, that is your signal to get up and leave. Your financial health really depends on finding someone who gets this right.